Hi, I'm not a chef. I'm not even really a cook. I'm just someone who likes good food, the kind that doesn't take a million steps and doesn't break the bank, and it won't make you cry in the kitchen, unless it's from the onions. The only degrees that matter to me are Fahrenheit and Celsius. I found ways to make the kind of meals I want to eat and without all the stress. And now I just want to share that with you. So if you're hungry, curious, and just tired of overcomplicated recipes, you're in the right place. Welcome to The Casual Culinary. Hi, casual cooks. I'm Josh, and welcome to The Casual Culinary, a cooking channel where we put a relaxed spin on making food that's full of flavor but not stress, because cooking doesn't have to be complicated. Like me, you've probably seen some of those cooking competitions where people whip up a 5-course meal in 45 minutes using ingredients you've never even heard of. Not here. At The Casual Culinary, it's all about cooking with ingredients you can actually pronounce and having a laid back time doing it. That might mean throwing something in the air fryer for 15 minutes, letting it roast in the oven for an hour, or smoking it all day, adding flavor but not pressure. So I hope you'll hang out in the kitchen with me while we cook up some casual eats with some of my tried and true go-to meals, viral eats, fan favorites, and some new culinary creations. And sure, I'll mess up sometimes because I'm not perfect, and your food doesn't have to be either. No one's chasing perfection here, just the next good bite. Today, we're starting with tri-tip. I used to hate beef and steak when I was growing up for a couple reasons. Number one, I was wearing braces. It was always hard to chew. My parents typically didn't know how to cook it, so they overcooked it. It wasn't really until my 30s that I kind of found a good way of making steak and understanding it was supposed to be a good medium rare when I was over at a friend's house. So I started cooking it and practiced with it, and this became one of the first successes I really had with cooking something that I liked and making it part of my regular rotation. So I put it on repeat, and this is something that I use to entertain with. Now, tri-tip is typically a meat that you're only going to find in California or on the West Coast. It may not be in a lot of other places, but you could easily use different cuts of meat with this. You could use ribeye, you could use New York strip, you could use skirt steak, flank steak. It's really the rub that gives it its flavor. So that's what we're going to be working on today. All right, so what I have right here is basically probably 2, maybe 3 pound tri-tip that I have. I've let it sit out at room temperature for an hour. You typically want to be able to leave meat to be at room temperature before you start cooking it. Otherwise, it may get burned on the outside and not cook on the inside. So this is your standard one. And as you can see, it has a little moisture in there. So we're going to pat that dry with some paper towels. So let me open this stuff up. Keep in mind we're handling raw beef, and you always have to be careful. I'm outside, I don't have a sink, so you always want to be able to be worried about food safety. Put that in there. You'll see that normally there's 2 sides, either more fatty or less fatty. So you can feel free to trim that off. I might give this a little trim here in a minute, but the first thing I want to do is I just want to be able to kind of pat off a lot of that moisture, which could be blood and other things. Some people will tell you it needs to be moist in order to have the rub adhere to it, and that's true. You could add oil, you could add water, you could add mustard, but for us, I just think there's going to be enough moisture on here that we'll still be able to have the rub adhere. All right, so here we're going to trim some of this fat, just using either a serrated knife or something that you can cut that off with. Sometimes there's different knives that you can use. This is where my non-chef skills come into effect, because there could be several knives. Maybe there's a knife that they make just for this. I don't know. I just use what works best for me. Trimming off most of the fat, you actually do want a lot of fat on there. Fat equals flavor, especially for tri-tip. And being that we're cooking this at a high temp, it's going to render off a lot of that fat and just help it to a bunch of juiciness and flavor. All right, so we're just taking off some of that fat. All right, so we have it all cleaned up for now. But again, the fat is running through the meat, which is going to give you all that flavor that you want. All right, let me take off the gloves and we can start the seasoning. All right, for the seasoning, it's actually going to be pretty easy. There's different levels of seasoning you can do. So I just happen to have Kinders. I don't work with them. I don't have sponsorship through them, but I've just learned that it's really a wonderful type of flavoring that we can add to this. Now, honestly, I've done this on my own before, and typically it's a rub that normally has salt and pepper and garlic powder. It has paprika and then some type of herbal note. For me, I normally put in parsley, but you could put in oregano. But if it's already got it, why try to stress yourself out? This is just another way of making things easier on yourself. So this is Kinder's, but I'll show you how to make your own seasoning in a different video, or I'll put up a YouTube short a little later. Noticing I'm going to be putting a ton of seasoning on here. And the reason why is really you're not going to get a bite of all that seasoning. When you cut through the meat, there's going to be a lot of meat in the middle that isn't seasoned. So you're just getting what's on the outside, and you want some seasoning on the outside to make it a nice bark, because that's why we're going to, again, put this on high, and this is going to mix right in. So I'm going to put one more glove on. So I'm just going to go ahead and get that rubbed in. I'm going to kind of give it a little pat down. Both sides, you don't want to place on the meat that hasn't been touched by seasoning, because that's going to give you your flavor, and that includes not only top and bottom, but top, bottom, and sides, or any other place where you can see that meat shining through. For some people, they would say that's heavy. Again, when you'll see on the cut when we're done of how it's really not. Get the sides. It's going to be so good. I cannot wait. All right, pat that down, get that nice and rubbed. You know, there's really nothing better than just giving it a good seasoning and rubbing your meat. There we go. We've got it all seasoned up. And now it's just simply time for the cook. So there's lots of different ways that you can cook this. I'm doing kind of a combined hybrid way. You want to hit it with a hot flame to be able to sear in those juices and be able to get the outside a little caramelized. But then you're going to move it over. It's not going to necessarily be low and slow, but you're going to reduce the temperature and cook it while it's actually like in an oven. But I'm going to show you the way I do that next. I'm lucky enough, I have a gas grill, and then I also have a pellet smoker. So I'm going to use both. I'm going to use the gas grill, get it up to a good 400, 500 degrees, and sear it on both sides for about 3 minutes a side. And then I'm going to move it over and put it on the pellet grill for somewhere around 350 to 375 degrees for anywhere from 25 to 35 minutes to finish it on the inside. If you don't have a pellet grill, you could use an oven to get it up to temp. You could start it on a stainless steel pan in a stove. There's lots of different ways. You can even use the grill the whole time for it, sear it on 3 minutes a side. And then if you have a grill that allows you to have indirect heat, just move it over to the side that's not getting the flame and just keep an eye on it. I'm going to be using a temperature probe. There's different temperature probes you can use. One of them is able to keep track of how much the temp is going during the cook, or you just wait till you think it's done. I know it's going to take about 25 to 35 minutes once I get it on the pellet smoker, and then I can go ahead and probe it and see where we're at with how much time I would have left. All right, let's get the grill going. For me, I have 4 different burners, and so I'm only using half the side. That's the side that's going to have the direct heat. This would be the side that I could move over to the indirect heat for the rest of the cook, but I really like to get this side smoking hot. Just so I can bring the grill up to temp, I'm going to go ahead and turn all 4 burners on so that it can heat up a little faster, and then we'll get going. I'm going to move over here and turn on the smoker as well for the pellet grill and just get the smoke going to start with. Probably take about 3 or 4 minutes, close the lid, and then we'll move it back up to about 350 probably. All right, let's get the meat on the grill. So I'm gonna have a little avocado spray. I just like some type of hot oil that stops it from sticking. So let's get to the grill, which is roughly at about 500 degrees. Be careful spraying any of these in there. Adds a little flame to the mix. Always want to be careful. And let's get it on the grill. I'm gonna put mine on for 3 minutes aside. Look at the seasoning and just slap that bad boy on and cover it up. And we'll leave it on there for about 3 minutes. All right, it's been about 3 minutes. So we're gonna go ahead and give the meat a flip. Some people might think it looks burned. It's not burned. You're looking for that good caramelization. Perfect for now to start with. Remember, this isn't going to cook on the grill. We're gonna cook it on the pellet smoker, but we're just giving it the searing for now. And we're gonna set it for another 3 minutes. All right, so we're just gonna go ahead and take it off the grill and move it over to the pellet smoker. Check that the bottom has some color, which it certainly does. And we're gonna bring it over. And we're running this at about 350 for probably about the next 25 to 35 minutes. So it's been about 35 minutes. And normally when you cook a tri-tip, you want it around medium. So most people go for around 130 degrees to 135 degrees. I've learned that some people like it more pink, some people like it more well. Well is not a way that I would want to go when serving it, but I do like it a little bit more. So I'm trying to hit around the 140 mark. So let's go ahead and see where we're at and see if it's time to take it off the smoker. I'm looking for somewhere around the 140 mark. So I'm sticking into the biggest part. So 144, that's good enough for me. Again, some people might want it a little more rare. I'm going to take it off the grill. And the big thing is we just want to give it time to rest. We're going to rest. It's going to allow the juices to redistribute throughout the meat. And it's still going to cook. So the degrees are still going to go up. So it might end up around 147, 148, 149. We'll let it rest for about 10 minutes and come back then. All right, so we just took it off the grill, let it rest for about 7 to 10 minutes, and this should be perfectly juicy. You can even see the juices running around. Oh, it's gonna be so good. Can't wait for this bite. So we're gonna pull it off. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get a cut into this. You can probably see the grains that are on there. These are kind of the striations on the meat that run one way. And it's always best to cut against the grain so it doesn't end up tasting stringy like shoe leather. So what I'm gonna do is, because it's a pretty big piece of meat, I'm gonna cut it right down the middle with the grain for a second. And we can get a little bit of a look inside there. Oh, so good. So amazing. Look at this. Not sure which camera I'm pointing at. Let's go with you guys over there. Okay, so we have that perfect pink medium inside. And then we can take those striations that we're looking at and we're just gonna cut against the grain. Always good to be working with a nice sharp knife. Looks like there's a fly that's gonna want a little bit of it. Oh, this is so juicy. I just can't wait. Can't wait. Oh, look at this, guys. Look at this. Oh, and I'm not even gonna get a fork. I'm just gonna go for it. Get the bite. Mm. Guys, just so juicy. You get the flavoring on the outside. I can taste the salt, the pepper, the garlic, the parsley. Mm, so good. Could be served perfectly like this. You don't want to ruin this with a sauce or anything like that. This is perfectly done the way it is. And just again, if you guys could see the juices that are coming out of it, and that's because we let it rest. So you definitely want to give your meat time to rest. Cooking doesn't have to be hard, doesn't have to be complicated. Just take it a little bit at a time, and let's work on getting the basics down and cooking some good grub. Hope you had a good time. Don't forget to like and subscribe, tell your friends, and come back and visit us for the next one. Until then, keep it casual.